And I would literally stop myself mid-sentence, for instance, yell at my husband for something completely ridiculous. And I would grab him and I would say, "You did not deserve that."
Have you ever found yourself apologizing again and again, snapping and apologizing, and realizing the words don't land anymore? What if the problem isn't your patience running thin, but your compassion running dry? Welcome to the UnCeiling You podcast. This is where we break through inner and outer ceilings that hold ambitious leaders back. I'm your host, Dr. Natalie Luke. And if you're new here, I'm thrilled that you've joined us. And if you've been with us before, welcome back. This is the space where we explore imagination, ambition, and the tools that help us rise higher without burning out. In our last episode, Abby Haverman showed how unworthiness can drive our choices until we reclaim our power. Today, we build on that with a conversation about compassion, not the soft, fluffy kind, but the practical framework that can turn burnout into clarity and transform leadership. My guest, Amy Quisenberry, went from being the go-to leader everyone leaned on to being completely disconnected and exhausted. Out of that experience, she created the Start with Compassion framework, a tool leaders can use to silence the inner critic, connect more deeply with their teams, and actually fuel performance. If you ever wondered why some leaders inspire loyalty while others create fear, or if you ever caught yourself judging too harshly, whether it's your team or yourself, this conversation will give you the mindset shift and practical steps you need. And stay tuned to the very end because I've got a surprise for you, a free tool you can download right now that will help you practice what Amy and I talk about today. Let's jump in. All righty. Amy, I'm so excited to have you on to UnCeiling You. This topic is really important, talking about compassion. One of the things that I'm working on with my folks is looking at dealing with the inner critic. And sometimes compassion is the best way to deal with that inner critic. So for that reason, I'm excited about this topic. It's not something we talk about a lot. And some people feel to be an effective organization, you have to be draconian in some ways. And so I love the fact that we're talking about the benefits of compassion in business. So we're going to get right into it. So for you, you were the person everybody turned to, and they turned to you for mentoring, for leading, for inspiring. But at some point you found yourself totally burned out and completely disconnected. And that could be disorientating, especially for you when you're a leader, you're a strong leader, and people will get a sense of that when they get to hear you talk. What was the moment like when you knew something had to change, and it had to change not just around you, but inside of you?
Yeah. That's such a great question. First of all, Natalie, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's such an honor. I'm thrilled to be here. You can only say you're sorry so many times. And what I mean by that is I found myself yelling at people, losing my temper and getting mad, and then saying, "I'm so sorry." And I would literally stop myself mid-sentence, for instance, yell at my husband for something completely ridiculous. And I would grab him and I would say, "I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve that. You did not deserve that." Well, how many times do you say that before your words are insignificant? Insignificant. Like, you're not sorry, clearly. He never said this to me, but this is what I thought in my own mind was, how sorry are you really if you keep repeating this pattern? And I sat back and I was like, you're yelling at people because you have nothing to give. You have no more left. You've stretched as far as you could stretch. You've given us as much as you can give. And any little thing that anybody does is like, it's somebody stepping on your toe, your bare foot, and you're like, right? Because that's what it was like, just navigating life. I was so reactionary. I was so wound up. And one day I just said, I can't continue like this. I will not. I was making myself sick by just being in my body because I was so disappointed in myself.
Wow, that really captures a lot. I'm thinking about my own mom, and for her birthday, I got her because she's watching her great grandchildren, and sometimes she just loses it. And so I got her a candle, and it says "Mom's Last Nerve." Look, it's on fire.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you were very introspective and said, okay, like, what's it like to be living with me? Because I gave that to my mom, and my mom said, I don't understand. And I'm like, Mom, you're yelling at people. And I thought to myself, well, I guess we haven't gotten to her last nerve because she hasn't like taken a step back to realize, wait, this is not how I want to live. And yet you did.
I just really, I think for a good part of my life, I don't ever remember a time, even when I was really young, that I didn't stop and say, like, well, this is the way it has to be. Even from very young, I was taught you have choices. You can choose different. You don't like it? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I was raised. And I saw that example in the choices and the lives that my parents both built out. And so I had that in me of just because this is my life today doesn't mean I need to continue to walk down this path tomorrow. I can choose better, different, other, whatever that looks like.
And so some people feel like, oh, this is it. And they feel like they have to push through. And then they keep giving and giving and giving. Why do you think it might be so difficult for people? And where does self compassion fall into that?
Yeah. Well, again, I go back to the way that I was raised. I was raised with the your actions, your words, there's consequences. There's an impact. So I was raised with this you're not in a bubble. What you do, how you do it, there's an impact to it. Think about your impact to the people around you.
Right.
That's the way that I was raised, right? I think that makes a big difference. If we're raised to think that whether nobody had an intentional conversation with us or whatever, it wasn't a thing back then,
Yeah.
whatever the reason is, if you are not raised with that perspective or somehow come in contact with somebody that helps you have an awakening with this of we're not living in bubbles. We're come in contact with each other. There's an impact. What you say, how you say it, what you do, and how you do it. There's an impact to that. So I think that's part of the key thing. Another piece is I needed to humble myself because there's an ego in there, right? We all have an ego. And so to be able to sit and look at myself and say, there's a common denominator here, Amy, and it's you. And that means I needed to take that ego and say, my want for a healthier life is more important to me than how, like, my ego. So I just had to kind of quiet that. Now, where does compassion come in? In my compassion framework, the Start with Compassion framework that I created, compassion is an acronym. The first S is silence the judger. And it is actually the most critical component of the framework. Without it, it cannot exist. If you don't do this while you're working compassion, while you're working the framework, whatever it is, it will not exist because compassion exists with a connection. You have a connection to something else that's happening, either within you or with somebody else.
Right.
But if you're judging what's going on, if you're judging that person, if you're judging yourself, that connection is severed, right? So that's why I like to say when we find ourselves in a judgmental space, judgmental frame of mind, just turn the volume down on that, right? We don't need to get angry. We don't need to get frustrated. But if we just soften by turning the volume down on that voice, imagine, like, even when I just say it, like my whole body just relaxes a little bit more.
So let's go with that a little bit more. In terms of that first S standing for self judgment, can you talk about a time when that really worked for you? Like you said, okay, wait, I got to soften it. And how did it impact your either work or personal life?
Yeah. So this is actually fascinating because this just happened recently. So I was in a situation where I had the opportunity at a conference to get up on a stage. Okay. And it was the last day of the conference. I was a little bit more casual, and every other day, like, had a blazer on and, night heels. And I felt like if I was going to present an image, if I was going to be on a stage, why couldn't it have been one of those days? Right. But that's not how it ended up. It was totally ad hoc, and it was super fun, and it was funny, and I had everybody laughing, and it was great. Some people sent me photos and a video,
Okay.
which I was grateful for, because when you're on stage, you want people to capture that for you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Here's what actually happened. I saw the video and I was able to see my essence on stage. And I was like, God, that's really cool. To be able to see yourself ad hoc, non rehearsed, just you being you. What a gift, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I loved my essence, but I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I looked. But because I was sent a video, I was able to like hook into Amy, stop, like turn the volume down on you judging you in a still frame. That's not you. Look at your essence on the stage. Listen to the people in the background that you are making laugh, that you are making cry.
Mm.
Like, that's what you need to be hearing, this moment that you created for these people. And so without the video, I wouldn't have had that. But it was such a gift, because I don't know about you, Natalie, but I've been judging myself my whole life. So I looked at this as a true test, and I feel like I passed it, because, like, I don't have, for me, even to be able to bring this conversation up and share this out loud, that's progress, right?
Yeah. Superpower. The superpower is that you caught it
Mm.
and said, whoa, turn that down. And you can in an instant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and if I can, I want to spotlight that piece, because I was actually telling my therapist about a moment recently where I was able to start with compassion in response to somebody else. Somebody else was frustrating me, and I got to turn the volume down on the judgmental voice. So I was telling her about it, and my therapist goes, compassion is in the moments. It's in the moments. Like, it's in the seconds. It's literally like there was a second, and you have a choice in that second of how you're going to respond. And I was like, it is. And that's what you just spotlighted. So I wanted to take a minute and add a yes. Yes, and.
Yes, and that's fantastic. And I love that. And I don't know about you, but well, and I say you listeners, I'm sure we all can relate, like looking at our picture and thinking, I'm not so sure, but having compassion in that moment is so awesome. And noticing other things that are fantastic in that moment. Well, you developed the Start with Compassion framework, as you had mentioned, and it's not just for well being, but it's a lever for performance and culture. How do you see compassion as a driver for both connection and business results, especially in building teams or leading change?
Yeah. The thing is that there were there was a time, anybody who was in business in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, right? I would say the 2000s also, leaders could get away with like not like outwardly not caring about their teams. Fear was acceptable. Fear worked. Something shifted, especially with COVID, where people are not putting up with the stuff that they used to put up with.
Right.
They know they have options. There's just too many gig economy options out there where people are like, yeah, I don't have to ride your train. I
Yeah.
don't have to ride it. I can get off. Like, this is not worth it. I don't need your stress. I don't need your drama. I don't need your trauma. There's another place for me to be, because I'm worth it, and you don't see that. So it is palpable. Now, I've been in HR for 20 plus years. So I've seen the transition. So I'm not saying it just anybody, but I'm on the front row of this, right?
Right.
So that's one big piece. But I also think that, people want to know that they're making a difference,
Yeah.
not just pressuring people to do this or that, but to actually celebrating the wins, letting them know, listen, the difference that you made on this project, I don't know if we could have gotten it across the line. Or what you did in that meeting, how you presented it, the client really liked it. I wanted you to know. We were on a meeting the other day, a bunch of leaders, and there were people talking about the great work that you're doing. I know you weren't in that meeting, and I wanted you to hear it.
Yeah.
This is jet fuel. This
Yeah.
is jet fuel. You want your teams to perform, let them know how great they're doing right now. And listen, not all team members are. The reality is that some employees are not doing well out there. But we have a choice. Do we want to get frustrated? Do we want to get upset? Do you think that's going to help? Or how about if we sit down and say, hey, listen, there's an opportunity to improve the work. Let's talk about it. That's what one on ones are for, not performance evaluations. That conversation should have happened before the evaluation, right?
Right.
But that's what one on ones are for. So, are we coming to our meetings? Are we having intentional conversations, helping our employees understand how they can do better? Because if we want to make a difference in the organization, leaders, you're the key. You're the key, leaders, percent.
I think it would be wonderful if you can cap it all off with a story of how compassion really transformed the relationship. Maybe contrast it to what a different behavior would have led to, like what kind of outcome was avoided as a result of using compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was actually in a meeting not too long ago, and I knew this was going to be a difficult meeting. I knew this was going to be a difficult meeting. Okay. I meditated that morning. I rode on my Peloton that morning, get all that angst and anxiety out, right? Calm the heart, ground, right? I did all the things, prepared, and I was able to receive every tackle, everything. And I just received it, I'm going to say with grace, right? I listened with an open mind. Still, at the end, once the call was over, one of the leaders, I was still exhausted. Like, regardless of what I did, it was emotionally exhausting and psychologically not good.
Mm.
Like, I did all the right things, but still, it's a little haunting and daunting to have 25 people coming at you, which is what it was.
You were in a hot seat.
I was in the hot seat. And one of the leaders afterward calls me and says, I want to apologize for what just happened. And I also want to acknowledge how professional you were and how gracious you were and how open. And I want to thank you for that.
Mm.
That single phone call made me double down. Now, I wasn't going to leave. Like, please, I'm committed, right? I'm committed. I'm in it. But what that phone call did is I didn't need to go take a break. I didn't need to go it was like, you know what, Amy, you did great. Keep on doing it. Whatever you're doing, like, forget all that. Take it in, it's feedback, receive it, make the changes that need to be made, and move on. But what this leader did was just like, regardless of everything that happened, know that what you did was excellent and you set such a high bar. And it's like, that was such a gift.
Yeah.
It was just really a gift. And that's what it was. I showed myself compassion by preparing the way I did. And this leader showed me compassion by saying, hey, listen, I see you. And some of us can do a little bit better than what you saw today, but I'm going to let you know that you're doing great.
So, what would have
Wow.
happened if you didn't treat yourself with compassion and you didn't prepare? Do you imagine?
Yeah. So, I've been in situations where, there's intentionality in compassion. It's not an accident. Let me first say that. When we show up as compassionate, it's not an accident, it's intentional. All
Mhm.
right. And I say that because there's been times when I haven't been prepared for somebody to come with a low blow, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that just knocked the wind out of me and I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
And so as I continue to use this framework, I'm strengthening myself. So I'm getting better at I'm going to come at you from behind or whatever. But in the moments that I haven't, the best word I can use is snarky. Like, just a little snarky, like somebody says something to me and it's a little not necessary. And it's like, okay, well, how would you like to proceed? Now you can see the frustration in my face.
Yeah.
You can see how would you like to proceed? They clipped me.
Yeah.
I let them hook me versus, you know what? That's really good feedback. Thank you for sharing that with me. Help me understand XYZ. I leaned in, my face softened.
Huh?
It's completely different. And they are now seeing me as a partner.
Yes.
Like, see, the thing is that when I started to realize and this was the shift before that meeting, that meditation that I did was critical. The Peloton got the excess energy out, but the meditation was key because what came in the meditation is, Amy, all of the feedback you're going to receive today, regardless of what tone it's delivered and how it's delivered, it's all a gift. And this feedback is critical. It is 100%. And so my mindset, my perspective was the most important factor in the room. Because as long as I join that call, that meeting with, I'm here to receive, I'm here to receive, I'm here to learn, and I'm here to grow, and I'm here to make things better. Because what they're saying wasn't about me, it was about the project.
Hmm.
And so again, the ego, right? The ego wants to be front and center a lot of the times. But
Right.
sometimes we need to say, thank you. You do so much for me. But today, let's go ahead and have a seat, right? Let's go ahead because it's not about you right now. It's
Yeah.
not about your ego, right?
Yeah. So this season is all about community, and you have built powerful communities, and from TTEC women and leadership to ICIC conference, and maybe you can talk a little bit about those. What does it really take to build a network rooted in compassion, authenticity, and not just convenience?
Oh, that's such a great question. So I want to start with, you called it TTEC. T Tech is what it's called, right?
Okay, thank
And
you.
I worked with T Tech for 15 years. Absolutely incredible company. So much of what I've experienced in my life that was amazing, I got from this company. I mean, sent me all over the world traveling. Like, oh my goodness, the framework wouldn't have happened, I don't think, without this company. So in 2015, 2016 ish, this organization is like 60 to 70,000 employees across the globe. There were 10 of us, and we came together and we said, we're noticing that women, very few women are getting in the executive roles. And very few women are making the jump from senior manager to director. Something is happening there. What what is it? We didn't have a woman on the board of directors. We had only one as an EVP. There was just a gap, right?
Right.
Which we see. So 10 of us got together and we said, we're going to create the Women in Leadership group.
Oh, that's
And over the next 5 years, we built out these programs and they were transformational to the point that we actually made Forbes top 20 women, most female friendly companies. So that's a lot to go from where we were to making Forbes. So one of the first things we did each year is we would send out a survey to all of the women in the company.
yeah.
We would do research and say, what are the top trending topics that women want to talk about? Women in business want to talk about. We'd send this list of 25 topics. Tell us your top. We would do a ranking to see what are the 11 top topics. That's what we spoke about. We didn't sit in a room siloed and make decisions. We reached out to our constituents and we
Yes.
said, tell us what you want us to talk about. And then we went out and found speakers either out in the community or within the company. That was the most common one, and spotlight them. The story, oh, it was amazing. The stories that we heard from our leaders to sit and have a fireside chat with an EVP, a female EVP. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And it's great that you did it from within. I mean, most of the time I would imagine that you go without, and yet the women that are within is like, hey, wait, I'm right under your nose. I'm like the grass around the sprinkler head. Like, I'm not getting any water from you.
That's right. It was amazing. It was amazing. So that's what happened there. There's a lot more that happened, but that's what some of the key stories from an ICIC. So Infuse Compassion into Companies. That's a conference that actually I went to a conference in March of 2024. It's amazing. It was only a year ago. And there were 12 of us, I think. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the different speakers and I'm listening. And about seventh or eighth speaker in, I stop and I go, you know what? We're all saying the same thing. We're just saying it in a different way. And we're saying that we want to infuse more humanity into the world by the way of the workplace, because we spend so much time here. We should do a conference. We should do a virtual conference, and we should call it Infuse Compassion into Companies, ICIC. And they were like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Let's do it. So I leave the conference. I'm overwhelmed. I've spoken at many conferences, but I've never put on a conference before. I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? A week later, my buddy Mark, you know Mark Carpenter emails me, ICIC, let's do this. That's all it took. It just took one person to just say, you're not alone, Amy. And between his connections and my connections, we are booked out through November. It's just amazing. We've had you on as a guest. And, it's so beautiful. These conversations, our community is growing. And so I want to go back to the core of your question, connecting with compassion to create a community. The best way to do it, put yourself out there.
There you go.
That's the punchline. Put yourself out there. We can't sit at home and think, wish, and dream. Do that. But we've got to move to action at some point. If we want change, we have to move to action. So what are you going to do? And maybe it's not you, but you need a catalyst. Mark was my catalyst, right? I can come up with the vision all day long, but everybody needs a Mark. Everybody that's an Amy, that's a visionary, needs an actionary.
So speaking of action, you do and have taken action because you pivoted your whole life's work. And that takes clarity, courage, and community. What internal beliefs did you have to release in order to make that happen, to really fully step into your current work as a speaker, coach, and author?
I had to release a lot. Most of us are walking this planet with just packs of stuff that's not ours. It was put here by somebody else. We picked it up along the way. Somebody said something to us, even though it may or may have not been true. And we're like, yep, that fits. So I'm going to wear it. But it's not ours. It's not ours. That comment that somebody said when we were a child about this or that, I've mentioned this on a few podcasts. I'll mention it here. It showed up a minute ago. I have a speech impediment, and I took 12 years of speech therapy to reduce and minimize my stutter. And I like to say sometimes it shows up like a good friend, even when you don't want them around. But, our good friends are there for us regardless, right? But my stutter has taught me so much. In fact, that's another thing. I don't think the compassion that is in me wouldn't exist if I hadn't gone through the bullying that I experienced as a child, the relentlessly cruel bullying that I experienced. And so I was told too many times to count when I was young that I was stupid, because people, I don't know if it's a belief now, but when I was growing up, there was a belief that if you stutter, that means you're less intelligent than somebody that doesn't stutter, which couldn't be farther from the truth. But I grew up thinking that I was stupid. As an adult, I thought I was stupid. So this perspective that I carried around, I wore it around like a coat. I had to say, this isn't mine. This is somebody's belief, somebody's perception. They called me this, I heard it, and I decided to pick it up and wear it. But I can choose to take it off and drop it. Another thing is I had to stop showing up with fear. I was afraid, Natalie, of everything. There was so much that I was afraid of, and I was holding myself back. What if? Does it have to be a negative what if? Can we flip it and be like, but what if you build a garden and it's amazing, right? So my belief system in myself, the stories I was telling myself, all of this, I literally did I think they call it a litmus test. Is that right? Where I was like, yeah, that's not true. That is so not true. And have you ever gone through your closet and you're like, that doesn't fit? Nope, don't like that. Literally, I cleaned out my internal closet and was like, yep, nope. And then I was like, oh, look at all these lovely outfits that I can now wear. That's how I did it.
Wow. Love that analogy, and me, and I'd love it if you can relate to this. It's for me, it's a great story. So everybody knows I play tennis. We talked about it. Mark was so excited that I play tennis. And when I go on the tennis court, I have this person named Natasha that's constantly talking bad. But I decided, if I have a Natasha that is my inner critic that's really telling me, don't hit the ball, like, how can you hit the ball like that? I've got to have an inner goddess inside of me, an inner tennis goddess. So what's her name? So her name is Leora. Decided I was going to hit with Leora. Natasha can go sit on the bench. Tennis, there's this thing called the tennis record where you can look at your rating based on your scores and who you were playing against. And at the beginning of the summer, my score was like an all-time low. And it was because I was playing with Natasha. And so I invited Leora to come and I created these cards. What would Leora be saying to herself right now? Number one, breathe. But number two, one hit doesn't make the game. Let it go. And a lot of different, really great positive. And it was so positive that my friends got a hold of my cards and they were like, you got to make copies for us. Anyway, I started hitting with Leora. And OMG, I was hitting out of my mind. Like, it was so awesome. I almost had to quit watching myself play because I was so busy playing. My score, my record just shot up like a rocket. And the thing that I realized was that when I'm playing with Natasha, I'm out there trying to prove myself, constantly prove, when the whole time I already had the goddess in me. So it was like just being that person, that best person. And I was wondering if there was ever a time when you realized that you didn't have to prove anymore, that you were just that great person.
Yes, but first, I want us to just take a minute and like celebrate you and celebrate that, the greatness that all of the lessons that Natasha taught you that helped you find Leora. But for you to be able to find the inner goddess that was in you the whole time, I believe that that's every woman's like core responsibility. We all have an
Mm,
inner goddess within us, and to find her and love her, celebrate her, bring her out into the world, don't hide. We
yes.
all have the inner goddess. So I love that. And it's your story is so, so beautiful. Last thing on this is notice the intentionality. I said compassion is not accidental. Beautiful illustration on the intentionality of you showing yourself compassion that helped you completely transform you in your game. Beautiful. I think it's happened slowly over time, but that same conference that I just mentioned that I was at, there was something that happened. There was this moment I was listening to somebody speak, and it was literally like a puzzle piece going into place where it was always supposed to be. And it was like, Amy, you've been performing your whole life performing, showing up as the person that you thought the people needed, that you thought you needed to be around, to be accepted, to keep the peace, to whatever, XYZ, fill in the blank, performing your whole entire life. You're done. You're done performing and you are just Amy, period.
Period.
And it was really beautiful. And so now I just really step in and I'm like, the key is honestly being present.
Yeah.
It's truly being present. And I feel like your cards are really good roadmaps, if you will, when I hear you tell your story of helping you be present in your body, right? Not thinking over here, but really being present and in your body. And because when we're solution, or, sometimes we can be other places and it's like, hold on, there's one place I need to be right now. And it's right here,
That is a
right
very
here.
good point because it was all about breathing and just embodying. Well, okay, so we are going to go into the rapid fire questions for the insider group. And before we go there, I would like for folks to know how to find you and to read your book and get involved with all the things that you have going on.
Thank you. Thank you. So, my website, easy, startwithcompassion.com, right? Email me, Amy at startwithcompassion.com. Couldn't be easier, right? I'm all over LinkedIn, Facebook. What are the other ones? I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere.
Instagram.
And you type in Start with Compassion and look for the SWC. It's got a heart. Okay. That's my logo. That's me. I do workshops, virtual and in person. And I just had a women's workshop recently, and it was so beautiful. The transformations that happened, my goodness, absolutely incredible. So, whether you want me to come to you and put on a workshop, or you have a group of people, or you want to join one of mine, check me out. I'd love to do a workshop with you. I also do motivational talks and one on one coaching. Everything is anchored into my compassion framework.
What's one last thing you'd like to leave the audience with?
Believe in you. Believe in you. If you don't believe in you, don't expect anybody else to.
Good point.
So we have to start, even if it's just one thing, even if we have to start small of I'm going to believe in this little piece within me. Plant it like a seed, water it, nurture it, pull the weeds and watch the garden grow. But if you're not believing in yourself, please give yourself that gift. And not only will you change you, but you will change the people around you.
Yeah, that ripple effect. Thank you so much, Amy, for being on. It's such a privilege. I feel so honored to have you here and to know you. Thank you.
I feel the same. This has been so much fun. Like, I just want to talk with you all the time, Natalie.
Let's wrap up today's episode. Amy showed us that compassion isn't soft, it's strategic. Here are the 3 things I hope you took away from this episode. First, the moment you turn down that inner judge voice, compassion can step in. Second, compassion is intentional. It's not an accident. It's choosing how you'll show up in split seconds. Third, compassion fuels performance. From team trust to your own resilience, it's the lever that turns feedback into fuel instead of friction. To help you practice this, I've created a free tool you can grab right now, the Burnout Beacon Worksheet. It's a simple 1-page guide to spot the early signals, reset before compassion runs dry, and keeps yourself in balance. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if you want to go deeper, including today's rapid fire questions with Amy, plus behind the scenes insights, Q&As, and leadership tools you won't hear in the main feed, you can download the insider questions for just $9 a month. Think of it as your backstage pass to all the good stuff. The link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. Your time and your attention mean everything. And I hope you're leaving with more compassion for yourself and your leadership. Next week, you'll meet a powerhouse guest who isn't just aiming for a board seat. She's going for the very top of the board of directors. I cannot wait for you to hear her story. Until then, keep unsealing your potential.